My name is Jennifer, and I am about to tell you how I took down the most vicious teenage bully in our town, and made sure she learned that actions have consequences that extend far beyond the school hallways. It all started when my daughter Chloe began her junior year at Westfield High School. Chloe had always been a quiet, studious girl who preferred books to parties and valued genuine friendships over popularity. She was not the type to seek attention or drama, which is exactly why what happened to her made my blood boil. The nightmare began with a girl named Madison Pierce. Madison was everything you would expect from a stereotypical mean girl, but worse. At 17, she was tall, blonde, conventionally attractive, and came from one of the wealthiest families in our suburban town. Her father owned multiple car dealerships, and her mother was a former beauty queen who now spent her time organizing charity events that were really just excuses to show off her designer wardrobe. Madison ruled Westfield High with an iron fist. She decided who was popular, who was acceptable, and who deserved to be tormented. She had a loyal group of followers who hung on her every word, and carried out her cruel commands without question. For reasons I still cannot fully understand, Madison decided that my daughter Chloe was her new target. It started small, as these things usually do. Chloe came home one day in early September looking upset, and when I asked what was wrong, she told me that Madison had made fun of her outfit in front of a group of students. She said I looked like I shopped at thrift stores, Chloe said quietly. And when I told her that I actually do sometimes shop at thrift stores because I like vintage clothes, she laughed and said that explained why I always smelled like other people's problems. I was annoyed, but I figured it was typical teenage meanness that would blow over. I encouraged Chloe to ignore Madison and focus on her real friends. But Madison was just getting started. Over the next few weeks, the harassment escalated. Madison would bump into Chloe in the hallways, causing her to drop her books. She would make loud comments about Chloe's appearance whenever she walked by. She started rumors that Chloe had lice, which led to other students avoiding her. The breaking point came in October, during what should have been one of the happiest days of Chloe's high school career. Chloe had been working for months on a science project about renewable energy. She was passionate about environmental issues, and had put together an impressive presentation about solar panel efficiency. Her physics teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, was so impressed that he recommended Chloe's project for the regional science fair. The day Chloe was supposed to present her project to the selection committee, she discovered that someone had sabotaged her work. Her solar panel display had been destroyed, her research papers were missing, and her laptop had been damaged beyond repair. Chloe was devastated. She came home that afternoon sobbing so hard she could barely speak. "Mom," she finally managed to say, "someone ruined everything. Months of work, just gone." "Who would do something like this?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "I cannot prove it," Chloe said. "But I know it was Madison. She was asking weird questions about my project last week, and today she kept smirking at me like she knew something." That night, I called the school to report the incident. The vice principal, Mrs. Henderson, was sympathetic but said that without proof, there was nothing they could do. They would increase security around the science lab, but the damage was already done. Chloe missed her chance at the science fair, and Madison walked around school looking smug and satisfied. But if Madison thought she had won, she was about to learn how wrong she was. I decided to do some investigating of my own. I started by talking to other parents, and what I discovered was shocking. Madison had been terrorizing students for years, but her family's wealth and influence had protected her from any real consequences. One mother told me about how Madison had started a false rumor that her son was gay, leading to months of harassment and depression. Another father described how Madison had convinced her followers to exclude his daughter from all social activities, leaving the girl isolated and miserable. The pattern was clear. Madison would target vulnerable students, destroy their confidence and social standing, and then move on to the next victim while the school did nothing. I also learned something interesting about Madison's family dynamics. Despite their wealth and status, the Pierces were not as perfect as they appeared. Madison's father, Robert Pierce, had a reputation for aggressive business practices and had been involved in several lawsuits over the years. Her mother, Crystal, was rumored to have serious drinking problems and had been arrested for drunk driving twice. though the charges had somehow disappeared. Most importantly, I discovered that Madison's cruel behavior was not limited to school. She had been caught shoplifting at the mall, had vandalized a neighbor's car after a dispute, and had been involved in several hit-and-run accidents in parking lots. The Pierce family had been covering up Madison's behavior for years, using their money and connections to make problems disappear. But they had never dealt with a mother like me. I decided that if the school would not stop Madison, I would have to find another way. My opportunity came in November, during the week before Thanksgiving break. Madison had escalated her campaign against Chloe to a new level of cruelty. She had created fake social media accounts and used them to post humiliating photos of Chloe that had been digitally altered to make her look ridiculous. She had also started a group chat called Chloe's Loser Club, where she and her friends would make fun of everything from Chloe's appearance to her family's modest income. But Madison made a critical mistake. She got cocky. One of the fake social media posts she created claimed that Chloe had cheated on a test, which was not only false but potentially damaging to Chloe's academic record. Another post suggested that Chloe was using drugs, which could have serious consequences for her college applications. These posts constituted cyberbullying and defamation, which gave me legal grounds to take action. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in cyberbullying cases, and she confirmed that Madison's behavior met the legal definition of harassment and defamation. More importantly, because Madison was 17, she could be charged as an adult. But before I went the legal route, I decided to give the Pierce family one chance to handle this privately. I called Crystal Pierce and requested a meeting. She agreed, probably thinking she could charm or intimidate me into backing down. We met at an upscale coffee shop in the shopping district where the Pierce family liked to be seen. Crystal arrived 20 minutes late, wearing more jewelry than most people own, and carrying a purse that probably costs more than my monthly mortgage payment. "Jennifer," she said with a fake smile, "how lovely to finally meet you. Madison has told me so much about Chloe." "I am sure she has," I replied coldly. "That is actually what I wanted to discuss with you." I laid out everything Madison had done to Chloe, showing Crystal printouts of the fake social media posts, screenshots of the group chat, and documentation of the harassment. I explained how Madison's behavior was affecting not just Chloe, but other students as well. Crystal's response was exactly what I expected. "Oh, Jennifer," she said with a condescending laugh, "this is just typical teenage drama. Girls this age can be so catty. I am sure Madison was just having a little fun." "A little fun?" I said, my voice rising. "Your daughter destroyed months of my daughter's work, created fake accounts to humiliate her online, and started rumors that could damage her academic standing. This is not fun, this is systematic harassment." Crystal waved her hand dismissively. "You know, honey, maybe if Chloe tried a little harder to fit in, she would not be such an easy target. Madison is popular for a reason. She knows how to navigate social situations. Perhaps Chloe could learn something from her." That was when I knew the Pierce family would never voluntarily stop Madison's behavior. They saw nothing wrong with their daughter's cruelty, and they clearly believed their wealth made them untouchable. "Crystal," I said calmly, "I came here hoping we could resolve this like adults. But since you think your daughter's behavior is acceptable, let me explain what happens next." I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table between us. This contains evidence of cyberbullying, defamation, harassment, and destruction of property. My lawyer tells me that Madison can be charged as an adult for these crimes. I also have documentation of her shoplifting, vandalism, and hit-and-run accidents that your family has covered up over the years. Crystal's smug expression began to falter. "Furthermore," I continued, "I have been in contact with other parents whose children Madison has targeted. We are considering a class action lawsuit against your family for enabling and covering up your daughter's pattern of harassment." "Also," I said, pulling out another document, "I have reported Madison's fake social media accounts to the platforms, and they have confirmed that creating false accounts to harass other users violates federal cyberbullying laws. The FBI takes this kind of thing very seriously these days." Crystal was no longer smiling. "You cannot be serious. This is high school drama, not a federal case." "Try me," I said, standing up to leave. You have 48 hours to get Madison to stop her harassment of Chloe and issue a public apology for what she has done. If this behavior continues, I will file criminal charges and civil lawsuits that will make your family's legal problems very public and very expensive. I left Crystal sitting in that coffee shop, probably for the first time in her life realizing that money and status might not be enough to protect her daughter from consequences. But the Pierce family had clearly never learned to back down from a fight they should have avoided. 2 days later, Madison not only continued her harassment of Chloe, but actually escalated it. She convinced her friends to start a petition to have Chloe removed from the National Honor Society, claiming that her cheating and drug use made her unfit for the organization. That was when I decided to destroy Madison's life. I started by filing a police report documenting all of Madison's harassment, cyberbullying, and destruction of property. The detective who took my statement was a mother herself, and she was appalled by the evidence I presented. "Ma'am," she said, "I have teenage daughters, and what this girl did to your child is absolutely unacceptable. We will investigate this thoroughly." Next, I contacted the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center and reported Madison's cyberbullying activities. While I knew federal charges were unlikely for a first offense, I wanted the Pierce family to understand that this was not going away quietly. But my most effective strategy was going after Madison's future. I researched Madison's college applications and discovered that she had applied early decision to several prestigious universities, including her top choice, Northwestern University. Madison was not particularly academic, but her family's wealth and her leadership positions in school clubs had made her a competitive candidate. I contacted the admissions offices at all of Madison's target schools and provided them with documentation of her cyberbullying, harassment, and destructive behavior. I explained that while Madison presented herself as a leader and role model, her actual conduct showed a pattern of cruelty and disregard for others. Most universities take character and conduct seriously, especially in an era of increased awareness about bullying and mental health. Several of Madison's target schools requested additional information about the incidents I had reported. But I was not finished. I also reached out to the organizations where Madison held leadership positions. She was president of the Key Club, captain of the debate team, and treasurer of the student council. I provided each organization's adult supervisors with evidence of Madison's behavior and explained how her conduct violated the character standards these groups were supposed to uphold. The results were swift and devastating. Madison was removed from her leadership positions in all 3 organizations. The Key Club advisor told me privately that they could not have someone who engaged in cyberbullying representing their service organization. The debate team coach said that Madison's dishonest and manipulative behavior was incompatible with the integrity expected of team members. Most importantly, Northwestern University rescinded Madison's early admission offer. The admissions office sent a letter explaining that they had become aware of conduct issues that called into question Madison's character and fitness for their community. They noted that the university had zero tolerance for bullying and harassment, and that Madison's behavior was inconsistent with their values. When news of Madison's college rejection spread through the school, her social status began to crumble immediately. Students who had followed Madison out of fear or desire for popularity suddenly realized that she was not as powerful as they had thought. If she could lose her college acceptance and her leadership positions, she could not protect them from consequences either. Madison's closest friends began distancing themselves from her. The group chat where they had mocked Chloe was discovered by school administrators, leading to suspensions for several of Madison's followers. Parents throughout the school district learned about the cyberbullying ring, and many of them were furious that their children had been involved. But the social consequences were nothing compared to what happened next. The police investigation had uncovered evidence linking Madison to several other incidents of harassment and vandalism. She was charged with cyberbullying, criminal harassment, and destruction of property. Because she was 17, she was tried as an adult. The Pierce family hired an expensive lawyer, but the evidence against Madison was overwhelming. Her own social media posts, text messages, and the testimony of multiple victims made her guilt undeniable. Madison was sentenced to 6 months of community service, 2 years of probation, and was required to pay restitution to all of her victims, including Chloe. She was also ordered to attend counseling and anger management classes. But perhaps most satisfying was the civil lawsuit that followed. Several families, including ours, filed a joint lawsuit against the Pierce family for the emotional distress, academic damage, and mental health costs caused by Madison's systematic harassment. We argued that Robert and Crystal Pierce had enabled and covered up their daughter's behavior, making them liable for the damages she caused. The lawsuit revealed years of incidents that the Pierce family had covered up, including bribes to school officials, payments to keep criminal charges quiet, and threats against families who had tried to report Madison's behavior. The case was settled out of court for a substantial sum that provided college funding for all of Madison's victims, including Chloe. But the damage to the Pierce family's reputation was permanent. Robert's car dealerships began losing customers as word spread about the family's behavior. Crystal was asked to step down from her charity board positions. They were forced to sell their mansion and move to a smaller house in a different school district. Madison finished her senior year at a private school across town, where she was just another student with no special status or power. She was rejected by every college she applied to after Northwestern, eventually ending up at a community college where her past was unknown. The most poetic justice came 2 years later, when Chloe was accepted to Northwestern University with a full scholarship. The admissions officer who called with the good news mentioned that they remembered Chloe's mother contacting them about a bullying situation, and that they were impressed by both Chloe's resilience and our family's commitment to standing up for what was right. "Your daughter is exactly the kind of student we want in our community," the admissions officer said. "Someone who has faced adversity with grace and has a family that supports doing the right thing, even when it is difficult." Today, Chloe is thriving in college, studying environmental engineering, and working on research projects that could actually change the world. She has found her people, students who value intelligence, kindness, and authenticity over popularity and cruelty. She still keeps in touch with some of her high school friends, and they tell her that the school culture has changed dramatically since Madison left. The administration has implemented strict anti-bullying policies, and students are more likely to speak up when they see harassment happening. As for Madison, I occasionally hear updates through the parent network. She struggled at community college and eventually dropped out. She has had several run-ins with law enforcement and has been unable to find steady employment, partly because her criminal record shows up in background checks. Her parents, who once thought their money and status made them untouchable, learned that enabling a bully has consequences that extend far beyond high school. Their reputation in the community never recovered, and they eventually moved to another state to escape the ongoing judgment and social ostracism. Some people have told me that I went too far, that I destroyed a teenage girl's life over high school drama. But those people do not understand what Madison did to my daughter and countless other students. Bullying is not just mean words or social exclusion. It is systematic psychological warfare designed to destroy another person's confidence, opportunities, and mental health. Madison's behavior was not a phase or a mistake. It was a calculated pattern of cruelty that would have continued until someone stopped her. I am proud that I was the one who stood up and said enough. My daughter learned that she is worth fighting for, that her mother will always have her back, and that bullies can be defeated when adults take action. She also learned that there are consequences for cruel behavior, even when you are young, popular, and wealthy. Most importantly, she learned that standing up to bullies is not just about protecting yourself. It is about protecting everyone who comes after you. Madison targeted the wrong family when she decided to torment my daughter. She thought she was dealing with another passive parent who would accept their child's suffering as an inevitable part of growing up. Instead, she met a mother who understood that some battles are worth fighting, no matter how long they take or how difficult they become. High school ends, but the lessons you learn about standing up for yourself and others last forever. I made sure my daughter learned the right lessons, and I made sure Madison learned that her actions have consequences that extend far beyond the school cafeteria. Sometimes the best revenge is simply ensuring that bullies face the natural consequences of their choices. Madison's downfall was not really my doing. It was the inevitable result of years of cruel behavior catching up with her. I just made sure it happened sooner rather than later, and I made sure she could not hurt any more children in the process. That is what real justice looks like. Not just stopping the immediate harm, but ensuring it cannot continue. If you believe that bullies should face real consequences, and that parents should fight for their children no matter what, then you need to subscribe to Revenge Janet right now. We bring you the most satisfying stories where the mean girls get their comeuppance and justice actually prevails. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because trust me, you do not want to miss a single story where karma teaches bullies the lessons they should have learned long ago.